just change there's only 10 slides there. So
yeah, I'll just,
you could do that.
yeah, kind of walk. Yeah, when you're ready to change the slides up, just
Yeah,
give me a cue.
Are you in the office or?
No, I'm actually at home.
Yeah.
But if I save it to my hard drive, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Like I was gonna say, I should probably do the same. Could do the same and do it that way. I learned something today.
It's amazing after a year of this, we're still figuring out little tricks.
Yeah.
Vince, looking like we still are waiting on a few members, so I'm just going to give it a few more minutes.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, I think we might have enough for a quorum, so there might be a couple more people trickling in, but I have 5:31 by my watch, so should probably get started here. I think we got a pretty full agenda tonight. I'm going to go through and read the roster, and just let me know if you're here. Let me pull that up. Okay. All right. Sig Yarnaris.
Here.
Harvey Cates. Harvey, I think I saw you in here.
Did you see my hand? I
Oh, there you are.
raised my little hand.
Thank
my
you.
little virtual hand.
I like it. I'm reading from, I have my laptop at home, so I only got one screen, so I'm reading off the roster. I got to switch back and forth, but thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay. Alan Chow.
Here.
Thanks, Alan. Suraj Verma. Did not see Suraj. Jillian Keller.
I'm here.
Thank you. Paul Malakowski.
Unmute. I am here.
Thank you, Paul. Dora Martinez. Okay, I don't think she's going to be here tonight. Vince Harris.
I am here.
Thank you, Vince. Lindsay Costello. I believe Jackie said she did not respond either. Ben Miller. Mayuko Majima.
Here. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Laura Izam. Jeff Bonanno.
Here.
Thanks, Jeff. Mike Sosinski. Mauricio Urias. Okay. Well, I do believe we have a quorum. Jackie, do you mind just confirming? I think we have just enough by my count.
Yes, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, I would just remind attendees to please mute your microphones unless you wish to speak. And if you do speak, please state your name for the record. Also, when making a motion. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Vince, to start the meeting off.
Okay, thanks, Dan. This is Vince Harris. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second meeting of the year of the CMAC. I'd like to open the meeting at 5:35 p.m. And once again, also, as Dan has said, remind everyone, if you are going to speak, please give your name so we know for the public record. We'll proceed on with the meeting is being recorded. We'll proceed on to item number 1, which is approval of the agenda. Could I please get a motion to approve the agenda for the evening?
This is Sig Yountrice. I'll move to approve the agenda.
Approved by, motion by Sig. Can I get a second?
This is Harvey. I will second.
Harvey, seconds. All in favor say yes or aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the item is approved. We have an approved agenda for the evening. We'll move on to item number 2, which is public comment. Dan, did we receive any public comment for the meeting this evening?
We did not receive any public comment. However, I realized I did the same thing last month as well. I failed to mention other RTC staff in attendance for the record. So if you would just humor me, I'll just go through the list real quick. Speaking myself, Daniel Dengis, Jacqueline Maldonado, Doug Malloy, Amy Cummings, Jim Gee, Michael DeLude, Rebecca Capular, and I believe that's it. Did I miss anyone? Okay. Thank you for indulging me there, and I apologize. I'll get it right next month.
No problem. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3. Item number 3 is approval of the January 6, 2021 meeting minutes. Did anyone have any suggested changes or additions or corrections to those minutes? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve those minutes, please?
This is Jillian Keller. I move to approve the minutes.
Jillian, thank you. Anyone for a second, please?
This is Sig Yountrice. I will second the motion.
6 seconds the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to item number 4. Item number 4 acknowledges the receipt of a report on the status of projects administered by the RTC Engineering Department. Do we have a report from staff?
And you're muted.
Item number 4.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Doug Malloy, engineering manager, who's going to give a presentation. And I'm just going to pull that up on my screen for him. I would also like to note that Dora Martinez just joined the meeting at about 5:37. Let's see here. Everyone see the screen?
Yes, but you can make it in presentation mode.
Oh, is it not showing up?
There
that
There
way?
it is.
Okay.
Now,
I
Thank
think
you.
this is just a delay. Thank you.
okay. We're good. Thanks. For the record, Doug Malloy, engineering manager. Appreciate the opportunity to give you a little update on some of the projects. I focused this presentation on some of the projects that will be going to construction in 2021. Back in October, I presented on some of our larger projects that are a little more long range and larger scale and not quite yet ready for construction. So I thought it'd be good heading into the next construction season to kind of provide you this update on what we've got really close to going out, getting projects in our community, spending our fuel tax and other funds, and putting people to work and providing some great improvements. You can go ahead and change the slide, yeah. So I thought I'd start out first here with what this bus stop improvement connectivity, it's a program. Back in 2018, we started looking at how to improve our bus stops, but also provide needed connectivity. We have 1,000 or so bus stops in the community, and a lot of those are, in some cases, a sign. They just might not have the kind of improvements that we'd like to have. It's difficult to catch up, but we are doing so. We've been allocating about $2 million a year for the last 3 years. We're slowly starting to get some of those projects out and get constructed. And typically, it's going to be a concrete bus pad or a concrete pad that has ADA accessibility, so you can get off and get onto the bus, obviously, in that manner, and then providing sidewalk connection from the nearest points. And in some cases, it's considerable distances and locations. So we've prioritized some of these. We're trying to attack about 200 of these bus stops with this 3-year program. Others have some amenities and things like that, but these are the ones that are the highest priority. So that's more or less the objective of the program. We're trying to put together cost effective, so they're scattered throughout the region. I'll show you a map here shortly. But a lot of the challenges with delivering this program is right away and providing a construction package that makes sense. They're, again, scattered around. Try to make it as efficient. We don't want to have 35 different work zones at any given time. So it's a little challenging that way. And right away is challenging. To be honest, it's just difficult. These pads don't fit within existing right away. So oftentimes we have to go through that process of acquiring rights. And sometimes that's challenged. And oftentimes we end up having to go through condemnation. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. Next slide. So this is a map. It's more closer to the 200 or so stops that we're working on, and they're in a variety of locations, as you can see, throughout the community, and then in variety of stages of either design or going to construction. We did complete a small project last year, about 20 stops, I believe. The next project that we're looking to deliver, I'll talk about shortly, is about 40 stops this spring. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, about $2 million a year is programmed for this. Again, it's all improvements like sidewalks and pads. We're providing at least 3 different packages, perhaps more, depending on how things shake out. And they really are coming out as we have approached the right of way, and the easier ones that we've been able to get right away on, we kind of package together, and then kind of as much as hopefully they make sense as far as where they're getting constructed and not too spread out. So 40 for this spring, and then we may have a 3rd phase later this year. Don't know the amount of those stops. Hope to get that out to construction later in 2021. Next slide, please. All right, moving on to another area that we deliver projects in is in traffic engineering. So with our roads have just limited capacity, right? When we have opportunities to widen, we try to do so. But a lot of times we try to get the most that we can out of our existing traffic, our existing roadways. And a lot of the capacity that happens on any given roadway occurs right there at the signals. So the best operation that we can get out of our traffic signals really benefits the entire corridor in a lot of cases. And so we've got projects that we put out annually. These 2 here are, as you can see, a new signal. That doesn't happen very often, but we are constructing a new signal at Mayan and Charlins. That's right there at the bottom of Somerset Parkway. We've got some minor improvements then at York Way and Pyramid Way in Sparks. And I should mention first that these projects are determined by a technical group that consists of the 3 entities, Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, as well as NDOT, because there are some signals that are on NDOT facilities. And they're called the Traffic Operations and Maintenance Subcommittee, and they meet regularly, and they prioritize different signals, intersections, improvements that, like I said, can really increase the capacity of the system and the network. They target about $1 million to $2 million size projects. They call these TE spot projects, as shown here. And it's a variety of different improvements. And I won't go into a lot of the details, but again, you're seeing new signal. This one here in this TE spot 2. T spot 1 is under construction. T spot 2, I believe, is also underway. It's a new signal at Rock and Edison. There's also equipment replacements that are needed from time to time. So we're helping the entities out by providing some cabinet equipment replacements, things like that. And then vehicle detection is also another part of some of these projects. Vehicle detection being either camera systems or in pavement systems that make sure that we're knowing when vehicles are in a location and when they're not, so that these signals can operate as efficiently as possible. Next slide, please. The TE Spot 10 projects are separate. And by the way, I should mention also that these are funded with fuel tax and sometimes RIF impact fee money as well, because it's development that obviously puts a little more burden on some of our systems. And so we are able to use both those local funding sources for these projects. TE Spot 10 has, looks like some intersection improvements there at Clear Acre and North McCarran, as well as El Rancho and Victorian and Sparks. This next TE Spot 10, which I'm not sure what we're calling it. I put fuel tax down there. That is how it's being funded. It has a signal at Veterans and Long Meadow. And if I'm not mistaken, that came out of our South Meadows study. So that study identified a lot of different needs in that area. And one of them is I believe, this traffic signal. And then there's a couple other components of that second project there. One of note is the rapid rectangular flashing beacons. Those are crosswalk identifiers. You typically see them as either a sign that can get illuminated and show quite obviously that there's a crosswalk there and there's someone in it. And then there's others that are overhead depending upon the facility. We work closely with the Washoe County School District to identify, and it looks like we've got 6 that we're identifying here that are going to be constructed beginning next year. If you're interested, I can provide the names of those. I'll just give you a couple examples. Mayberry Drive at Keel, Steamboat Parkway at Horse Ranch Road, Sparks Boulevard at Ion, Sparks and Cathedral Vista, and Eratzabal, Golden Valley and Estates, and then Western Skies near Brown Elementary School. Next slide. So a lot of the work we do, of course, is maintaining our regional roads. When we have a road that's in pretty good condition, either newly constructed or within a few years, or before getting severely deteriorated, we want to keep those good roads in good condition. So our preventive maintenance projects annually, about $6.5 million, covers about 150 lane miles annually. A huge effort that's spread out throughout the county. We work with the agencies on the prioritization, but it's typically going to be those roads that are in good repair still. And we can continue to extend the life of those roads. Some of the components of it, we may have to do some patching, but most often it's simply crack sealing and microsurfacing, which is what you see in the background of this photo, basically your typical slurry seal. And then of course they get restriped as well. Next slide, please. And then of course there are some roads that are beyond that kind of a treatment. And so we've got several of those that go out annually. This is more in the line of $18 to $20 million worth of work each year. It's typically focused on pavement reconstruction or rehabilitation, meaning take off a layer, put a new layer back down. Just to name a few here is Kings Row, It's broken up into two phases. The first one is from Keystone to Wyoming. Actually, it isn't to McCarran. That'll be in the next phase. Reno Consolidated is some work there on California near Reno High School. We just did improvements there at California and Booth. This is road improvements, and we're also going to be building some sidewalk on the south side. So there's continuous pedestrian connectivity through that corridor. Then there's some other smaller pieces that are associated with that project. Reno Consolidated 2101, some local collector streets that have been prioritized. And then there's a couple other projects there. Golden Valley Road and Newport Lane are both in the North Valleys. And then there's one in Sparks with a couple of industrial roads. Next slide, please. And then, just to point out a few other projects that should be going to construction in 2021 is one is Mill Street Multimodal. From Terminal to McCarran, there's very few pedestrian amenities through there. We're going to be constructing a continuous sidewalk path on the south side and a pretty significant amount on the north side west of Rock to Terminal Way. That'll have full ADA improvements to make it very accessible. And again, there's just not continuous facilities on Mill Street, and there's certainly a need for that. There's connectivity that will be very important and a real focus of this particular project. The Lemon Drive widening I mentioned back in October, that should be going to construction here. It also includes reconstructing the interchange at Lemon and US 395. That's going to be a diverging diamond interchange, much like you see at Moana and 580. Audie Wells Multimodal is a very significant project. It's over $30 million worth of improvements. It'll take a couple of years to get it constructed, but we are looking to get started here this year. It includes cycle track, shared use paths, lighting, and other amenities. We're completing Sun Valley Boulevard. The first segment of that is nearly complete. We had to stop because of the winter. Finish that up. That's just the intersection there at 7th Street on Sun Valley Boulevard. And then lastly is a project that's a reconstructive Sky Vista, but it's also a widening. Probably not going to go to construction this year, but I just wanted to mention that's a fairly significant project out in the North Valleys. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any questions this evening for Doug?
Hi, Doug. This is Dora Martinez. Sorry, I had a hard time hearing. So the veterans hospital, I think you were talking about. So will there be a automatic pedestrian signals there? Is that what you were saying?
Oh, that's a great question, Dora. Although I'm not really familiar with the new signal installations, yes, they're going to be full ADA access. So I think your question is, are they going to be audible? And I'll have to check on that to be sure, but I believe that's been our standard with the city.
That'll be cool, because a lot of vets are, both dual disability, so hard of hearing and visual impairment. So that'll be great. I know this is probably out of your PV, but we had a lot of snow falling down over the weekend. And I walk a lot, and I don't know who would be the responsibility to fall on when the sidewalks are covered and the ramps by the apps, the audible pedestrian signals. It's hard to line up to cross, and when you get off the bus stop, they're not clear, so you're stuck. I don't know can be able to answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you, Dora. I apologize, other than I know that each property, at least in the city of Reno, the property owners, and it may be probably with all agencies, individual property owners are responsible for maintaining their sidewalks. So even though it's at the corner of maybe an intersection, it's still that property that's at that corner is responsible for that kind of maintenance. And sometimes it doesn't happen as well as it should, for sure.
Any other questions for Doug? Doug, this is Vince Harris. I had a quick question. So can you tell me, does RTC advertise, award, and administer your own construction contracts, or do you hire a construction manager to do that work?
Now we manage the entire process from design through construction. In some cases, on larger projects, we will have. So let me go backwards. On a rehab reconstruct project, we'll typically, our design consultant will assist in the management of the construction. But we do administer the contract. We put it out for bid, and we retain our design consultant to be somewhat assisting in construction management. On some of our larger projects, like an Audi Wells, for example, we'll hire a consultant that can provide those construction management services. But again, we're hiring them. We're also putting the project out to bid. So there's no third party as far as advertising and handling the construction contract.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
services we need, like inspection and testing, things that we don't have on staff.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions for Doug this evening? Doug, thank you very much for the update. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Dan, just a clarification on this item. Do we need an action from the committee, or is this just an acceptance?
Yeah, if we could get a motion to acknowledge receipt of the report, that'd be great.
Can I please get a motion for item number 4, acceptance of the report?
Jeff
Anyone,
Bonanno.
please.
Jeff Bonanno. I move that we acknowledge the receipt of report on the status of project administration by the RTC Engineering Department.
Yes, motion. Can I get a second, please?
This is Sig Rice. I will second the motion.
Second by Sig. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the item passes. Thank you. And thanks again, Doug.
You're welcome.
Moving on to
Thank you.
item number 5, discussion and recommendation of tasks for the fiscal years 2022 to 2023 Unified Planning Work Program. Possible action. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take this one. This is Dan Dedges for the record. And so we're at that point where starting to plan ahead for future transportation studies and some of the more administrative tasks that we do to kind of carry out the federal requirements of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. So one of the federally required documents to kind of detail that effort is the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP. That it is on a fiscal year cycle that's matches the RTC's fiscal year. So beginning June 1 through July, or I'm sorry, yeah, June 1, July 1, my apologies, through June 30th for the fiscal year. We're actually proposing a 2-year work program. We've done this the last couple of cycles, and it really provides some of the flexibility, and especially with federal funding that we have that's allocated to us, especially when we're working with consultants to assist with some of these studies. It's just nice if a project is, or a study is still ongoing kind of at the end of one fiscal year, we don't really miss a beat when we kind of pick things up starting July 1. So like the staff report says, we're looking for any suggestions or recommendations for our projects or planning studies to undertake for fiscal years 2022 and 2023. Just a couple that we have in the hopper that I'd like to share. We'll probably be continuing our electric vehicle and alternative fuel infrastructure and advanced mobility plan. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but it is pretty comprehensive. It's really just kind of getting kicked off now, so we anticipate that this will continue into the next fiscal year. After we have our 2050 RTP adopted, we're looking for adoption by May. We want to then kind of open up our bicycle and pedestrian master plan. Kind of do an update to that plan. That's something we'll probably be doing in-house. Although we don't know that we've really had those discussions yet, but looking at updating that with some great project suggestions we received through the RTP process, as we did call for projects for that. Some other suggestions we've received from kind of our local entities like City of Reno is to do a kind of an area transportation study in the Bird Eye area. There's a lot of development happening there, and residents are, I think, wanting to know what the future traffic circulation is going to look like with the new development, as well as City of Reno staff. We're looking at doing a midtown traffic circulation analysis. Now that the Virginia Street project has been implemented in Midtown, we have a lot of the traffic calming there, and just kind of want to basically do, we had kind of the before, and now we kind of want to do the after and see how traffic is moving in Midtown, and if there's any adjustments that might need to be made. Similarly, we're looking at doing a parking analysis for downtown Reno and Midtown, kind of that, where those two kind of sections of town, I think, kind of come together. And also looking at Sparks as well. We want to take a regional perspective for this. We're also going to be continuing our data collection and analysis program. This is really some of the counts that we do for our more active modes of transportation. So looking at bicycle and pedestrian and wheelchair counts, and seeing how we can better utilize that data to help inform future investment for those multimodal improvements. And then we're also working with our public transportation and operations department to develop a transit optimization plan strategies, or TOPS is what they're calling it. It's an acronym. It's essentially the short range transit plan that's been developed in previous years, and this is kind of an update to that. And so we'll be looking at funding that effort as well. So those are just a handful of some of the studies that we're looking at over the next 2-year period. But again, really the purpose of this item is to kind of get member feedback. And I will note that next month we'll likely be bringing this item back with a little bit of more of a formal budget and outline of some of the tasks we'll undertake. So, and again, if you don't have any specific suggestions this evening, please do feel free to reach out to myself or any RTC staff regarding something if it comes to mind, maybe tomorrow or a week or two. Again, you'll have other opportunities to comment and kind of see what that draft work program will look like. And with that, I'll stop talking and open it up to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Dan this evening? Well, hearing none. Do we need a motion, Dan?
If you would please, yes, a motion to acknowledge, receive the report.
If I could get that motion, please.
This is Harvey. I move to acknowledge receipt of the report.
Thank you, Harvey. That's moved. Can I get a second, please?
Jeff Bonanno, I moved to second. All right, second.
Seconded by Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Moving on to item number 6. Thank you, Dan. Item number 6 is acknowledge receipt of a report on the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP. I assume we have a staff report, and hopefully you've had an opportunity to peruse the 142-page document.
Thank you. This is Amy Cummings with RTC, providing some information about where we are with the Regional Transportation Plan right now. And as you referenced, you have a substantial amount of the draft plan available to start reviewing in your packet. We have about As you said, 142 pages in there right now. You may have noticed there are a few chapters missing because you could see the table of contents and how everything fits together. So the chapters we're still working on are the executive summary, chapter 2, which will be our outreach and community engagement chapter. And then at the end, we're going to have one for our financial projections and one for our performance measures. So we're hoping to have those out available for review here in the next few weeks. We're working to get some additional feedback from the RTC board at our upcoming meeting, and then complete the draft plan and put it out for public comment. So hopefully you'll be seeing the full plan document in draft form at the next meeting next month. So that is what is in store. We did want to make sure you had plenty of time to start reviewing it because it is such a substantial document. And there were two pieces. One were the chapters, and there was also what will be Appendix A, and that is the project listing. So those were the two pieces that were in your packets this time. And as you can see in the document, we have the 4 guiding principles to promote safe and healthy communities, economic prosperity and innovation, sustainability, and to increase travel choices for residents in our community. We also have a series of goals, and as you might have been able to tell from the table of contents, the goals track with the names of the chapters. So safety, integrating all types of transportation, promoting healthy communities and sustainability, equity and environmental justice, integrating land use, managing systems efficiently, looking at regional connectivity, freight and goods movements, and engaging the community were all separate chapters in the document. And I want to thank all of you for participating with us to get us this far. I know you've had RTP items on many of your most recent agendas. And so you are one of the key groups that's been providing input to us along the way. We also have an agency working group, an inter-county working group with staff from our surrounding jurisdiction or surrounding counties that aren't part of the RTC board itself, as well as the many virtual outreach events that we've held. And we've also been working towards getting additional input over the last month or so. We've been at the planning commissions of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County. And we've also, well, Sparks is next week. And we've been in front of the Reno and Sparks city councils and the Washoe County Commission to gather their input as well. And we'll be at the Regional Planning Governing Board and the Regional Planning Commission at their upcoming meetings. And in terms of how we got to where we are, just as a refresher, because I know you were, most of you have been with us throughout this whole process. We started with our in-person workshop and first online survey in February of 2020. We did our online call for projects along with a virtual public meeting last summer. And we followed up with the evaluation and online survey for input on prioritizing the projects just in the last couple months. And the images on screen now correspond to the 3 pages. There were 3 sets of spreadsheets that went out in the packets, and they're by time period. So I know these were presented at the previous meeting as well. We've made just a few refinements based on input that we've received. So the first map shows the project, and again, this corresponds to the list for the year 2021 to 2025, and it's separated by multimodal projects, capacity, and private road construction, as well as design. So many of these projects you just heard Doug Malloy talk about in our engineering program. So that's Sun Valley Boulevard, Pyramid Highway, Lemon Drive, Audie Wells. Those are some that we're expecting to be under construction in the near term. So most of what's in this first 5-year plan are things you're already familiar with and are in process currently. We've also reflected the roads anticipated to be built as part of master plan developments or private developments Those are important to make sure we are accurately reflecting the regional roadway network when we do our air quality analysis. So they're in here, and this map, they're shown in purple, even though RTC will not be involved in constructing those. So those include the neighborhoods in Verdi, Somerset, the Daybreak area of South Reno, some in Spanish Springs, as well as Stonegate. The next graphic is a zoom in to the South Meadows area to highlight, again, the Daybreak road network is shown here. Also, the Mount Rose Highway improvements. INDOT is doing their corridor study right now. And I believe you can find still online their virtual public meeting that they held as a live event last week. But I think that'll be available on their website. So if you do have input on the Mount Rose Highway corridor multimodal and safety improvements, please participate in that process as well. And this also identifies some of the projects, the major capacity projects that came out of that South Meadows study, and that's Steamboat Parkway capacity, the Geiger grade realignment to provide some relief for the roundabout at Veterans and Geiger grade, and a widening, an additional northbound lane on South Virginia for folks going northbound off of the I-580 ramp. The next graphic is a zoom in to the area in the North Valleys. And again, we're still in that 2021 to 2025, first 5 years of the RTP. So here you can see some of this, the North Sparks, Spanish Spring roadway networks, Stonebrook, Lazy 5 Parkway, Wingfield Hills Roads, as some that are going to be completed by our private sector partners, as well as the capacity projects on Pyramid, Lemon Drive, and Sky Vista. We're also showing the design for a capacity improvement on North Virginia Street. The next graphic moves into the 2026 to 2030 timeframe. So again, this corresponds to the second spreadsheet that was in the packet. And this reflects the design work that's going to be going into the McCarran Loop. We're going to be starting that corridor study this year. We're very excited to get that underway. So we know that we don't have the precise scope for these projects identified, but we do want to reflect that those are a priority for the RTC. And we're going to be working on those and advancing the design in this time frame. We also have additional capacity projects. And again, these came out of the North Valley study a few years ago that you'll see on Red Rock and Moya and Military. There are also a series of multimodal improvements in Sparks, the Sparks industrial area. We have improvements on Gregg Street to really focus on sidewalk connectivity and bike access. That's one of our stronger transit routes in terms of ridership. So we want to make sure that there are safe and accessible paths to travel for our transit customers in the Gregg Street corridor. The next graphic zooms in again a little bit more. You can see the North Valleys. This also reflects the INDOT improvements that are currently underway for the widening on 395 and the Spaghetti Bowl. The final set of maps reflect what we call the out years of the plan, the years 2031 to 2050. And this is where you see a lot of the longer term capacity projects that we feel are going to be important to completing and having that long range vision for what our roadway network connectivity needs are going to be. So a lot of that is in the North Valleys to better connect the North Valleys with Spanish Springs and North Sparks areas. You also see a series of multimodal improvements in the downtown Reno, sort of within the McCarran Loop. And those all have all of our projects have incorporate pedestrian safety and bicycle access. Those multimodal improvements in the urban core don't include additional lanes for cars. They really have that strong focus on multimodal. So this graphic is zoomed in again to the North Valleys for these projects. There is not a specific alignment adopted yet for what you may recall as the Eagle Canyon Extension Project. The results of that study are showing us that the alignment might not actually be an extension of Eagle Canyon. It might have a different terminus. So we want to reflect that here, even though there's still a lot of work to be done to identify where that alignment would be. There's also an extension of Lemon Drive out to connect to Moya. And I think this is the final graphic that just zooms into the South Meadows area. And this is where we're showing the reconstruction essentially of South Virginia Street. This is another project that came out of our South Meadows study. This is a lane reduction so that we were hoping to convert that curbside lane for a bus bike lane in anticipation of being able to have higher frequency bus service and ultimately a BRT extension down to Mount Rose Highway. And most of the studies on this list, Dan actually just referenced in the UPWP call for projects discussion. These are planning studies either underway now or that have been identified for us to start working on. And that's Mount Rose Highway, the McCarran Loop, Bird Eye, Virginia Street. We've had some requests to work with the city of Reno to look at the vision for downtown Virginia Street, right through the central area, as well as following up on how things are going in Midtown. And we continue to do this, to do before and after studies and operational and safety analysis on how our projects are performing. So we want to do that in Midtown. We've also had requests to look at parking needs in downtown Reno and Sparks, as well as Midtown. Our next steps are to incorporate input from you today, the other committee presentations that we'll be making, and the RTC board. And then, as I mentioned, get that draft all finished up and out for public comment. There'll be a 21-day public comment period before it goes to the board. And prior or during that 21-day public comment period, or shortly before, we'll be bringing this back to this committee for a recommendation. So we're hopeful to get a recommendation of approval from the CMAC before it does go to the board for their action. So today we're just informational only to receive a report and also to gather from you any input that you may have for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions this evening? Okay, hearing none, we thank you again, Amy, for the report. We'll see you again. Can I get a motion to acknowledge receipt of the 2050 RTP report? Can I get a motion, please?
This is Harvey. I move that we acknowledge receipt of the RTP.
Thank you, Harvey. Moves. Can I get a second, please?
This is Sig Yountrice. I will second the motion.
Seconded by Sig. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that item is moved. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7 this evening, acknowledging receipt of a report on the proposed May 2021 RTC ride service change and provide feedback. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to turn this over to, I believe, Michael DeLude will be giving the presentation.
Yes, Dan. Thank you. This is Michael DeLude, Senior Technical Transit Operations Planner for the RTC, Project Manager for the May 2021 service change. We have just a couple, if I can get my screen to work here, just a couple of changes. One's a pilot project for the truck for a service between Truckee Meadows and Incline Village area using our FlexRide service, and then just a short discussion on it of our typical route timetable adjustment. For the FlexRide project at the Incline Village, we'll go over a quick project overview, cover the service parameters and the potential routing. The purpose and need is to offer a public transit option for getting between the Truckee Meadows and the Incline Village areas. It's to help reduce traffic up at the east shore of Lake Tahoe. And it's also to help maintain and improve the environment of the Lake Tahoe Basin. The service is still under development. We're still dealing with our partners on this and trying to determine the final actual service parameters. But currently what we have is service between South Reno area and the Incline Village area. We'll use RTC's FlexRide service, the vehicles, which are ADA equipped, and we'll allow bicycles. The daily service parameters is 7 days a week, beginning at 7 a.m., going till 9 p.m. 24 hours in advance reservations is required. Any trip purpose is allowed, and it's $5 per person per trip. We're partnering with the Tahoe Planning Authority and the Tahoe Transportation District on this project. The endpoints is somewhere in the Incline Village area. We haven't quite decided where that actual endpoint will be, but the beginning point will be at the Summit Sierra Mall at the south end of State Route 431 or Mount Rose Highway. And that will be the path used to get between the two areas. It's about a 25 to 35 mile drive, and it takes about 55 minutes to go one way.
Yeah.
That sort of covers the FlexRide pilot project up to Incline Village. Next is the miscellaneous time adjustments to the timetable. We constantly review the segment run times between all our time points for each route. And so we just go in and tweak them from time to time to make sure that we're staying current and relevant with the traffic congestion and the passenger loads that are occurring. It helps maintain on-time performance and improve service reliability. And its intent is just to make sure that passengers are getting good information. Public outreach, we're continuing with our COVID-19 protocols, making sure the buses are clean and sanitized. We have a virtual presentation for this service change that you can view at rtcwashoe.com. You can reach out to us on social media. My email address is there, so you're welcome to send me your questions or comments or thoughts. We also have a hotline, 775-335-0019. And I should back up and also include the fact that we are doing a survey for the FlexRide project that will be available on our website as well within the next couple of days. And it's to get an idea of potential demand and get the public's thoughts about that type of service. So I'm open for any of your questions or your thoughts. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any questions or comments for Michael this evening?
Can you hear me? I don't know. I can't see myself on the screen, so I don't know whether I'm muted or not.
We can hear you, Harvey.
All right. So it just occurs to me that running this service from the Sierra Summit Mall to Incline Village would be very expensive, and it would have to be heavily subsidized. Well, most transit is, but I'm saying even more than normal to be able to run this service over to Incline and charge people $5 a whack. So it just occurs to me that this is like a pretty extreme example of something, unless you've got like special funding for it or there's some special purpose. And also I'm curious about potential demand for this service as well.
And that's Harvey, thank you for your question. This is Michael Delude with the RTC. That's part of the reason for that survey, is to help determine that demand. Again, this is a pilot project, so it's still being drafted out, sort of as we speak. As for the service, we ran a typical service, or we didn't run typical, we ran a service like this back in 2014. We used our larger fixed route buses to make that service work. And yes, it was very costly and very expensive, mostly because of the energy required to go up and down the hill with a big bus, and also replacing brakes quite often because of how heavy the equipment was. We're using a smaller a van vehicle, 20-passenger cutaway van, to make this trip, so it cuts down the cost quite a bit, and it makes it a little bit more affordable to do. As for the funding source, we've got a portion of the funds that we typically put towards the TART program up there. Plus, we're going after another grant for about 10% of what we think it might cost, which I think we're looking at somewhere right around 300,000 for the TART contribution, and 30,000 for the grant. So that's what we're looking at. Jim Gee can probably help fill in some of the gaps in that area.
Harvey and Michael, for the record, Jim Gee, Manager of Service Planning and Innovation. One of the other things that we're doing to reduce our costs is we're leveraging our FlexRide software and making sure that we're only going up the hill on demand. So our goal is to not run empty buses up and down the mountain. We want to basically go on demand, and also when we have multiple requests, group those requests so we can basically maximize our resources and be as efficient as we possibly can. That's something we couldn't do back in 2014 because we just simply didn't have the technology. But we can do that now, and that should help reduce our costs.
Is this service intended to be all year round?
No, it's going to go from Memorial Day to Labor Day, which matches the operating schedule for the transit service up there. One of our primary goals is to basically get people out of their car so they don't have to drive all the way up there, park along the side of the road, and so we're going to get them in the bus, take them up there, allow them to connect to the existing transit service that's already running up there, and as a result, we're going to go Memorial Day to Labor Day weekend because that's when their service operates.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Michael and Jim. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I could get a motion to acknowledge receipt of the report, please.
This is Harvey. I move that we acknowledge receipt of this report.
Moved by Harvey. Can I get a second, please?
Jeff Bonanno, I second.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the item carries. Moving on to item number 8. This is member announcements, agenda items for future CMAC meetings. Do we have any input from members? Any input from members? Okay, hearing none.
Hi, this is
moving
Dora
on.
Martinez. Can you hear me?
Okay, Dora.
Sorry,
Yes, we
I was
can. Go
looking
ahead.
for my mute button. For future agenda, I was wondering if we could have somebody from the paratransit to come and talk on their training in regards to assist people with disability boarding and unboarding the bus, because I had some poor service. And also possibly talk about, I use the access now that it's snowing a lot, and some of those buses do not have, and excuse me, I don't know the right term, like when you go on a speed bumps, it's very rough, like a suspension. I was wondering if we could, maybe somebody over there could discuss and possibly if they're going to order more buses to have some consideration, because we are humans in those buses, and it's very rough when they go on a speed bumps or bad road. So just want to see if we can have those in the future agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dora. Any other announcements from members? All righty, hearing none. Is there any report from RTC ride access staff this evening?
I do not have, this is Dan Dengis, I do not have anything to report. Turn it over to my RTC colleagues, though, to jump in if they have anything.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other public comment this evening?
We did not receive any other public comment.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our last item, can I get a motion to adjourn?
This is Sig Rice. I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Sig. Move to adjourn. Can I get a second?
This is Jeff Padano. I second.
Seconded by Jeff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 6:31. We'll see you next
Thank you,
month.
everyone. Yeah, have a great
Thank you.
night.
Thank you, staff.
Thanks.